The worst is black hair with green eyes. It's come out in England, in the London Telegraph, and in mainstream news here. They've been caught in Georgia, where they go to the daycares, they go to the public schools, and they have bounties. They say, we're looking for kids that look like this. Your child has a bruise. Your child gets hurt. They're going to take them. And you don't have the Bill of Rights and Constitution. We have to get rid of family courts entirely. And it's all designed psychologically, where they don't tell you we're taking your kids forever. They say, oh, we'll just go to counseling and we might give them back. And they get you into the system. They don't tell you the counselor they send you to is paid by them, works for them, and 99% of the time is going to say, take the children. And then they're the, quote, court expert. Everything is meant to keep you in the dark while they do this and permanently terminate custody. And remember, these family courts out of the health department and this whole system was set up by the British social Darwinist / eugenicist in the 1860s, Galton and others, and was adopted by 1910 in the majority of U.S. states. I mean, I have the newsreels clips. We put a few of these in my film Endgame that were in movie theaters in the 30s saying, is your neighbor poor? Call CPS on them. And it shows images of women crying, being sterilized, and their babies being taken to be sterilized. And these were in newsreels. People didn't have television, and so they went to the theaters, you know, the 5-cent theater. And before the matinee or before the evening feature, they would show these propaganda things that would show babies being taken, that would show women being taken and sterilized, as if it was a good thing. The Nazis used that in their Nuremberg defense in the trials, unsuccessfully. Saying, look, we learned this from the United States. We learned this from England. So that's what's going on here. Can the government come and get you and take you and sterilize you? No judge, no jury, no nothing? No. Well, they did it until the 1980s. That's when they finally ended all this. See, well, this is part of the same system. They never stopped. They're predators. They don't care about children. More than 2/3 of foster children in the U.S. are on psychotropic drugs. You cry for mommy when they take you? You're mentally ill. We're going to drug you with a dangerous drug. The suicides are off the charts. This is an abusive system. It's the 21st century version of slavery. We'll come back and finish up with this. Stay with us. So how, as a society, could we be sold on new courts being set up that sterilized over 500,000 women? They say it's actually in the millions, from the 1930s to the mid-1980s. I mean, just search the term. Woman in Seattle forcibly sterilized. Or woman in Texas forcibly sterilized. The cases were still going on in the 80s. They just grab you, they take you, they sterilize you. And I've watched the Texas legislature, when they've investigated this, they'll have the different heads of the psychiatry groups on saying, well, these kids have bad gene pools. You know, that's why we're doing this to them. So they got away with all that lawlessness until Hitler used their system, and everybody got freaked out about it. And so they backed off, and then secretly from the 40s until the mid-80s continued it. These aren't real courts. There's no jury. There's no due process. They get a corrupt judge for political power, many times a criminal or a pervert, to sit there and do this. And we just become calm and accept this. You know, we let them kidnap poor people's children. Now they're kidnapping middle class and wealthy people's children. And they do it. But they also, for 38 plus years, in the entire Western world, as part of a secret UN program, which now been declassified the last year, I got so many emails and calls saying, I thought you were a liar. I showed you the documents. I talked about it for most of my 15 years on air, because a nurse in San Antonio sent me the secret documents. Then I found out state representatives knew about it. Congressmen knew about it. I had members of the British Parliament on. I had members of the Australian Parliament on who were fighting it there, that at birth, they take 3 ampules of blood, and they claim it's for a blood test. Well, why didn't the hospital do it? Because it's not a blood test. It's sent to the UN and the Pentagon for bioweapons labs and genetic engineering testing, and it's now all admitted. Headline, hospitals bartering babies' blood. And the nurses have been trained like jail guards that thuggishly say, we got to do it, it's a blood test, it's mandated. And they know full well what it is. They know full well. They'll take your baby's blood if they want. They'll put you through a naked body scanner and record your naked body and lie about recording it. Now they admit they're saving it. As we told you, it was in the federal documents a year ago. The last week, they've admitted they're saving it. CBS News, CNET News, Reuters. They think your blood belongs to them. They lie to you to get it. They think they can record your naked body. Has nothing to do with terrorism. It's about getting a biometric scan of your body. They're now announcing that they have changed the laws to take your pension funds. When they made the change in 2005, I screamed bloody murder. I've got the Chicago Tribune today with the subsections that I told you about 5 years ago, 4.5 years ago. We don't make any of this up. I know it's scary. I know it's crazy. You know, I was listening to XM radio today, and I was driving in, and on NBC, they air TV programs, and on it, they were talking about these two old women, looking for my story here, these two old women in L.A. who went and got two homeless people, paid for their apartments for 2 years. That's how long it takes to get death benefits from insurance. And, I mean, you've all heard about this case. But they just this week had their sentencing finalized. They lost their appeal. And there's recordings of them admitting that they went and found homeless people, took out millions of dollars of insurance on them, and then ran over them with cars and murdered them. And the police couldn't believe that they were that evil. But later they confessed to it. Well, what do you think the government is doing? What do you think these rackets are doing? You can't believe it's happening, and so you are completely wide open to the attack. In every case in history, when you lose the liberties that your ancestors fought and died for, once tyranny is accepted, it races to the bottom. Hell on earth unfolds because evil people get into control. And when you've got a naive population that goes along with it, the sky's the limit. There's the headline. Black widows get life in prison. Elderly women get life in L.A. murder for profit scheme. They would get homeless people, claim they were a homeless advocate group. They would take care of them for 2 years while they falsified documents and put in multi-million-dollar insurance claims on them. And then they would put them in an alleyway. They'd give them liquor laced with knockout drugs, make them pass out, and then run over them repeatedly to get the money. That's all the CPS is. That's all the federal government has become. I remember, and I've told the story before, in Dallas, Texas, I'm 15. I'd passed the driver's safety course. And I was going to get my license, and my dad said, they're going to ask you to sign the organ donor card. My dad's a physician. He said, don't sign it. I've got colleagues in Dallas that say if you come in hurt, they won't take care of you, and that some hospitals will even kill you to get your organs. And I didn't believe him. I was naive, but I didn't sign the organ donor card. And then years later, 60 Minutes came out and talked about Dallas and Chicago and other cities where they were killing people for their organs because those doctors and hospitals were getting large cuts out of the hundreds of thousands of dollars they were getting for the lungs, kidneys, liver, and other tissues. And how many headlines have you seen about them stealing dead people's eyes and organs when they haven't signed? This is killing people for them. And we're blind and naive. Oh, you know, it's impossible for two old women, almost 80 years old, to take care of people, to get to know them, and then murder them. No, this is par for the course. And it's only going to get worse. Once you lose your liberties, once you accept the precedents being set to erode due process and the Bill of Rights, you're going to be enslaved. And a lot of people say, well, I have nothing to hide. I don't care if they naked body scan me. They're even saying on the news, I don't care if they put lithium in the water to make me behave. The government's now proposing that. I don't care if all the major car manufacturers, there's a federal bill introduced to have a camera watching you live time in your car 24/7 when you're driving. What do I have to hide? The airlines are announcing cameras in the back of the seats to watch you and record what you're doing. The point is, The government's more secretive. The big corporations are more secretive. They've got something to hide. Meanwhile, they're telling you they're going to surveil everything you're doing. Let me give you a quote here. We will never have to worry about this being the land of the free as long as it's the home of the brave. And that's basically what Thomas Jefferson said. All that evil men and tyrants need to flourish is that good men and women do nothing. And so you've got this glossy media telling you everything's fine, this glossy media telling you the economy's gotten better when you know it hasn't, this slick media telling you the government's taking kids to help them, this whole system telling you they're not recording your naked body scans, now admittingly they are from the start, telling you 5 years ago that Alex Jones is a conspiracy theorist. There were articles written, we're not taking your blood secretly at birth. Now they admit they are. It's exactly as I told you, because I had the documents from a whistleblower. People always say, well, this stuff's so corrupt, somebody would warn us, somebody would tell us. They do tell us. There are more than 15 major university scientists, it's back in the news today, in the last month, who said they've been all over the ocean floor. There's 20 miles of ruptures. That well blew out. It's still leaking. They're spraying core exit to disperse it. It's killing the Gulf. But they tell you they fixed the well. They fixed the one area, but it's already split and broken up. Of course they can cap it. There's almost no pressure coming out of it now because it's underground fissures. And they're threatened. It's in the news. It's in the St. Petersburg Times and other mainstream publications today that they're threatened by the federal government for their grant money, for their jobs or worse. They go out there and there's oil plumes everywhere and the government just says, shut up. Because tyranny is when a mafia system takes over your society. And if you're gullible, like these homeless men picked up by these women who took insurance policies out on them and then murdered them, you're going to be abused. Stop being chumps. Stop being suckers. Stop being so willfully stupid. Stop thinking that you don't need to be involved in society. If good people aren't involved, it's over for us. If good people aren't out there engaging corruption and not trusting the government, it's over. I remember 2 weeks ago, Bloomberg reported that every major insurance company is now keeping the death benefits of dead vets. Their wives and husbands, their widowers or widows, don't get the money. And they said, well, federal regulators are allowing us to do it. It's still criminal, even if the criminal government tells you you can. They're now announcing they're about to take your pension funds. They're plunging the stock market by design. We're not going to fix any of this until you get awake and informed and angry and motivated. And the system knows you're getting awake and motivated, but not to the deep level to fully understand just how bankrupt and fully evil this government is and these major corporations are. Look at history. You know what happens over and over again. It's happening here. We've got to get involved now.